Zoos are places of wonder, enabling humans to observe and connect with some of the most unusual species in the world. This face-to-face experience is meant to educate and inspire the public to value and protect the incredible animals they share the planet with. But for the keepers and curators, caring for the zoo's animals is only part of their job.
I'm very proud to say that zoos really do include in their mission as a central part the wildlife conservation in tandem with animal well-being and animal care.
Most of us, get into biology or get into the animal care field because we want to make a difference. We want to do good by the world and the natural spaces in it.
St. Louis Zoo, they were ahead of their time. They were doing this work late 1980s. And in fact, it was such a commitment that the curators formally have a quarter of their time dedicated to wildlife conservation centers.
In 2004, the St. Louis Zoo made its commitment to field conservation official by establishing the WildCare Institute. With 16 centers and 13 programs based all over the world, the Institute works in tandem with other conservation organizations and, most importantly, the local community where the centers are based.
From the beginning, we've been cognizant that this is not only about wildlife, but also about people.
The WildCare Institute Center for Conservation in the Horn of Africa partners with the Grevy Zebra Trust to not only preserve a critically endangered species, but also to educate and enable the people there to manage their conservation and continue research.
It was really inspiring to see. One of the things that we support over there is women working to restore and protect the grasslands to increase grazing opportunities for the zebras. One of the main reasons their population is in decline is grazing competition from livestock and human encroachment. So they are out there growing grassland and trying to help give them more grazing opportunities.
Every 2 years, staff from the St. Louis Zoo join others to travel to Kenya to participate in an intense census-taking effort called the Great Grevy Rally, which helps the locals gather information on how the Grevy zebra population is doing.
So during the rally, we go out in the field and we take pictures of the zebra's right side. Every zebra has a unique stripe pattern, so that is how we are able to identify them. When all the pictures are compiled, they will be put into a computer program where they can recognize their unique stripe patterns, and we'll do a census from those photos. The WildCare Institute supported us going over to Kenya and doing the Grevy's Rally, so people coming to the zoo and supporting the zoo supports that, which supports the conservation work going on over there.
But the WildCare Institute also has centers much closer to home, like the one working to reintroduce the American burying beetle back into the state of Missouri and beyond. Once native to at least 35 states, as well as parts of Canada, the American burying beetle is a scavenger that depends on the meat of dead animals to survive. To bolster the dwindling population, the St. Louis Zoo has been breeding pairs for introduction back into the wild, providing the happy couple with dirt and a dead quail. The beetles create tunnels where they hide the food source and lay their eggs. Curator Kayla Garcia gave us a peek at one of the adults and into their unusual methods of breeding and raising young.
These beetles are really interesting because they're one of the few insect species that actually exhibit what we call biparental care. The babies, when they hatch, they're little grubs, kind of beg for food from the parents. They kind of make these little noises, and they both work together to keep their babies well fed. With that quail, they actually are able to preserve it with these special secretions that they produce to keep it from getting too rotten. Then once they get big enough that they start to crawl away, that's when mom and dad can kind of leave.
Beetles raised at the zoo are taken to a habitat in southwest Missouri, where a team, including Kayla, provides an initial food source and protection against fellow scavengers so they can raise young without interference.
These beetles do play a really important role in recycling nutrients. They're able to return minerals that are from decomposing animals back into the soil. I've always had a particular fondness for our native wildlife, but what I find is that a lot of people don't necessarily realize just the diversity of life and the amazing animals that we have in our own backyards.
Another North American WildCare Institute center isn't actually located in North America, but in the Marianas Islands, which include the U.S. territory of Guam.
The St. Louis Zoo has been a long-time contributor to conservation of bird species in this region of the world. So Guam is the kind of big island in a chain of islands where the brown tree snake was accidentally introduced during World War II. The brown tree snake is kind of sneaky. It's nocturnal and they're arboreal, so they're climbing around in trees, but they're hiding a lot during the day. So it took a little time to realize that the snake was the issue that was kind of causing the population decline in the forest bird species on Guam. So it was biologically one of the most devastating ecological disasters. U.S. Fish and Wildlife decided that they needed to step in quickly to help preserve the species of Guam.
The Guam kingfisher was one of the first to receive focus. After capture, they were taken to several locations all over the world, including the St. Louis Zoo, and put into human care where they thrived. Now, decades later, there's a plan in motion to release some of that population back into the wild, but definitely not on Guam.
So unfortunately, the island of Guam is not yet safe for release there because the brown tree snake is still present. But it's really exciting to hopefully envision a future where they'll be out in the wild again at least and no longer extinct in the wild, which is their current status.
And in case the brown tree snake is able to covertly hitch a ride to one of the neighboring islands like Saipan or Rota, another bird-saving technique is employed. This involves studying the various species patterns and territories, setting up nets to gently capture them, a short period of veterinary observation, and then translocation to another island in the chain, where they are released back into the wild. A top priority is providing the island community with ways to connect and assist with these conservation efforts.
We have field trips coming out to our field sites. We're getting to show students that maybe have never had an opportunity to be in their native forests, see their native species in hand, and really help make that community connection that is so critical.
So, besides supporting the zoo, what can the average St. Louisan do to help with these global conservation efforts?
Reduce, reuse, recycle. What you do with your garbage makes a tremendous impact on animals in the wild. Even just being cognizant about your energy. Climate change is imperiling so many species, but also policy, making sure that you vote for what's right for wildlife in the world.
And for zoo staff like Kayla, Jen, and Amanda, who get to be boots on the ground in the fight to protect and preserve wildlife, it's another way to share their own wonder and passion for animals, whether in the field or here at home.
To be physically engaged in conservation in this way is super fulfilling for me. Holding an endangered species in my hand and knowing I am directly contributing to the potential success of this conservation project is amazing.